Hi, this is Eliza Inkberry with Darkside University's Gothic Gardening class. This is part 2 of week 3's lesson on color, and I'm starting with color complements on the Cornell University website. If you'd like, you can go and look at Introduction to Color, Warm and Cool Colors, and the Color Wheel, but I'm starting right here in the middle. And basically complementary colors are colors that are opposite each other on the wheel and they complement each other. So you can see how violet and yellow really bring each other out, or red and green, although this green is a little bit blue in color on my screen. And I think that it works well with the colors just to the right or left of it too. So if you have violet, I think it also goes well with like a yellowish orange or the chartreuse right here. And so here's adjacent color, and that's just colors that are right next to each other on the wheel. So on this planting, not one plant, it's a hosta and a Stella d'Oro daylily, but you can see the sort of green, but the green, the chartreuse, and the yellow are next to each other on the wheel, and they go really well together. And right here we've got a monochrome, and that's basically just one color, and you could be going for one color of foliage or one color of flower or both. In this case, all the yellow flowering is still complemented by a dark green foliage there. So sometimes you can't really get away from having more than one color involved. And so color variety is when you take 3 colors on different parts of the wheel, and then you put those together to try to complement each other. And in this case they're using green and purple and orange, and I think that those could go really well together in a goth garden planting. I'm not sure about this specific one. It's I think the texture could be better in this, actually going back to the texture video, because all of these have kind of the same texture going on. And so here's another one where they're using 3 different colors here. And then shades and tints. A shade is if it's got black added to it, so like a dark blue, and tints are when it's got white added to it, so like a sky blue. And here we have neutral color, and neutrals are like the browns and silvers and whites and colors like that. And so here we have an example of complementary colors that I think would be nice in a goth garden. You've got orange roses, and that looks like pineapple lily eucomis in the front. And those two go really well together. Plus this pineapple lily would have black foliage on it as well. And this is a garden in Toronto that's using a lot of different color that's complementing, or this could be the where are we? Right here. This could be an example of this where they're using color variety, but you can see the chartreuse and then the dark purples and the greens and a little bit of white here, but these colors are going really well together. And there's another shot of the same garden with some red added in, and it's a very eye-drawing focal point there. This is an artist's attempt to use only black plants in a garden, and they used a lot of geometry in line, which we had talked about, to bring that out. You can see a little bit of white flowering in there, but it's almost entirely a monochrome garden. And here's another monochrome example with just some very simple black planters and purple millet. And this is a marigold that does its own color, complementary color, because the black foliage on it is almost purple, and then you've got the orange marigold on top. And here's where they've used some color poles that will be there even when these plants are not blooming. These are azaleas, but it looks like they've painted just regular poles red there, and then they put a round sculpture at the end, so the line draws you in, and then you've got all of this color that's monochrome and drawing your eye in that direction. I feel like this could be the Queen of Hearts garden. I can't tell if those are roses or azaleas, but I think they're roses, and that is a pretty spectacularly monochrome garden. They've even put down red gravel. And here's another version with some nice red trim in it, and some good texture here, especially with these purple-black columnar shapes. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but you can find a lot of conifers that would do that, and things like specialty boxwoods and other landscape structures, usually evergreen. You could also have an obelisk of some sort and grow a vine on it. In the background back there, I'm pretty sure those are going to be Japanese maples, and then they've got a lot of different types of red flowering plants up here. All of it's a little bit blurry. This is a spectacular use of color because it just jumps out of those uh, green frames with the very sculpted bushes and stuff. And then this tree is standing out with its silvery color compared to everything else, and it kind of mirrors the building. I like this red bridge a lot. That's one way to just get color that's going to be there all year round. And then you have little window boxes all along the side that you can plant in, and they've used blue because that's a complementary color with the red bridge. Using pink and red and white roses together, or even the same plant, that can end up being a good theme. But when it's the same plant and similar colors, this would all be adjacent colors on the wheel, except for these yellow ones in there. And here you have some dark purpley foliage here, and some of these dahlias. I think that's dahlias back there too. And dahlias tend to have a really good contrast, kind of a complementary almost contrast with their own foliage. And so we get to white gardens, and white gardens are a good monochrome type garden. They're very popular. They're good for if you want to do moon gardening, night gardening, but it's pretty simple to find a white version of most plants. So anything that you particularly like, whether it's herbs or vegetables or ornamental plants, you can usually find one to use for a white garden. And in this case, they've just very simply edged it with some very strongly linear paths, and that brings out all of the texture and the varied heights and layering and the complementary, not yet, the adjacent colors that you have going on here, and kind of a neutral color palette as well. So here we have, again, there's some cosmos in the background. This looks like Speedwell, maybe, Veronica, and then Cleome, which is cat's whiskers, or also called spider flower. So we've got some phlox and echinacea, more echinacea. All of these are, this is a very simple, small garden bed. I kind of hope you don't have this much lawn. This looks like a park, I hope. Lawn is definitely a waste of resources, but if you have a smaller garden bed, then this could be a good ornamental planting to do. And the rocks even kind of bring out the white color and everything. And here you have white that ends up being very reflective at certain parts of the day, and the muted greens that go with it. And here's another white garden. These are alliums and peonies and roses, and let's see, hard to see the rest of it, but I like how the bricks stick out here and how there's also little pockets of plants all along the wall. And this is mostly azaleas and rhododendron. They have some interesting sculpture in there and just some plain branches. This would be pretty early in the year with all of these azaleas blooming. But it's a monochrome garden with purple. And here's another purple garden. Joe Pye weed, that's hard to tell. That might be a stilby and monarda. And then you have some cattails in the back. I like this bathtub. I was thinking about the scene in Nightmare Before Christmas when the bathtub walks off with Oogie Boogie's men in it. But you could probably do some pretty clever things in a goth garden with a bathtub planting like this, and you just leave the drain open so that the water drains out the bottom. And here's a peaceful kind of monochromatic garden that has just the slightest hint of color with these red berries here, but green can be a total monochrome that you can use, and you could maybe mix some black in with the green as well, but pick stuff that's not flowering, and it would end up being a very dark garden. And I have a feeling I didn't mean to leave that in there. So yeah, I don't think I meant to leave that in there either. So here's a planter that's all monochrome of different textured flowers, and some silver to set it off here. And here's a garden, you could use maybe a black umbrella or some other types of umbrellas, something that you particularly find appealing, and mirror the colors in it in your garden design. And an umbrella would be an easy, inexpensive way to have some sort of focal point in the garden. And that was actually the end of my lesson, so I will see you in class.